I mean, obviously, I thought our guys responded, to practice this morning in a good way after, it's kind of hard on a short turnaround. Not play, but we practiced a lot, last night after coming back from California and to come back this morning and have meetings and get back out on the practice field in full pads. They kind of pushed through it today. So it was good work. Still a lot of, ones on ones or good versus good. There at the end, we got a couple of, Tennessee carded looks. It'll be kind of the, same routine a little bit. We're kind of getting a little bit more into a regular season type of schedule. Not necessarily doing all the same things that we would do during the regular season from a, game plan and preparation standpoint, but yet wanting our guys, coaching staff to kind of get used to what it's going to be like during the regular season week. So we're not doing that for the first time, getting ready for Carolina. So it's kind of what we got going on.
Was the last sort of team sets today about kind of scouting Tennessee?
Yeah, the last period of the day was carded periods versus Tennessee looks.
And so how does that impact things like evaluate? Like, are there still things to evaluate player?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you're still evaluating whether a guy knows what to do, but it's not the same speed and tempo from a contact standpoint, maybe as some of the, the other periods are. But I'm still evaluating if I'm on what I call the show team, and I'm a show team receiver, I want to see, can you get freaking open? If I'm a show team offensive lineman, I want to see if you can block us. So those are the things that you're looking at. And conversely, if I'm on the show team and I'm a corner, like, can you cover them? Like, I'm looking for that. Can you, as a defensive lineman, get off a block and make a play? And so there's still evaluation that takes place in that portion of practice.
What do you guys learn about Kyle Hertel during this camp?
Well, I think he's a young guy that, as an undrafted free agent that's come in and done some good things. And he's kind of put himself in contention for whether it be a practice squad spot or roster spot, whatever the case may be. I mean, the number one thing for him, and it's generally this way with a lot of, undrafted players and rookies in general, is like, availability is the most important ability. So if you're out here and practicing, we get a chance to evaluate you. If you're not, it's hard for us to make evaluations. So I think that'd be the number one thing I'd say, is he's been available for us all throughout training camp. So we've gotten a good chance to evaluate the player.
I know we've asked about him a few times, but like Kendrick's still not being out there. Like, how do you weigh what you've seen in the past versus not really seeing anything right now?
Well, look, I mean, honestly, I get that question a lot. I don't. All I can go off of is what I've been able to evaluate, and quite frankly, since we drafted him, there hasn't been a whole lot of new information other than what I've seen, what I saw on the college tape, because he hasn't been available, and so, and for whatever the case may be, but it's hard to make that evaluation. So. Hopefully we can get him out here and have an opportunity to, evaluate where he's at. But it certainly, certainly makes it a lot more challenging. That's for sure.
Is that hard to do too? His new system, you don't necessarily know if he can't evaluate what he's picked up, what he knows, what he can do. Is it worse right now given that circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, I got no idea.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think he injured his hamstring in the first individual drill of training camp, and I haven't seen anything of him. So he's talented. I know he's talented, but I don't know if he can learn the system. I don't know if he can pick up the system because I haven't seen him out there. So
Roster cuts are like less than a week. I mean, is he a candidate for IR?
I'm pretty aware of when the roster cuts are. You know, yeah, I'm not going to speculate on any type of roster moves or anything like that. You know, we'll evaluate where we're at when it comes time to cut down the roster, and we'll make decisions that we think are best for our football team.
Just for clarity, too, on Rashid Shaheed, I know it was a toe/foot. Does he have turf toe or anything? Is it that serious, or is it?
No, I don't anticipate that this is going to be something that's going to, keep him out for, extended period of time. So, but look, he's another guy that, we'd like to get him out here and get some looks. When you're the play caller and you're trying to put guys in the best position to do the things that they do well and to have success, it's easier to do when you've had experience with a certain player, right? So you kind of know, you've been in that battle, you've been in that war with that player, and so you kind of know what to expect. Being that this is a new system and a new play caller, I think it's important that we figure out, like, how we're going to utilize certain players. So it makes it more challenging when guys, aren't out here. Now, doesn't mean you can't get the job done. We still have a job to do. Whatever adversity that we face, we have to figure it out. But it makes it more challenging when guys aren't out here. And look, part of the deal as the play caller, and you're dealing with these skilled players, is, man, we want to utilize your talents and what you can do really, really well. And the more I'm around you, the more I spend time with you, the more I see from you, the easier it is for me to envision, okay, all right, these are the things that I think I can call from a play call standpoint that's going to put this guy in the best position to have success. And so it's challenging when guys aren't out here.
And just kind of going back on that, the Kendrick Miller line, how would you just assess the running back depth behind Alvin overall through these weeks right now?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with where we're at. I like our players, and I think we've got guys that can play in the National Football League, so that's not a concern of mine.
With all the injuries the offense has had during training camp, how much do you think that is maybe stymied some of the progress in learning the new system?
I would say it's definitely had an effect, and yet it is what it is, right? So nobody really cares about how many injuries you're dealing with. It's about, the bottom line and producing, and certainly we're still in the preseason, portion of our schedule. So we've got time to get some things ironed out. I thought the offense had a hell of a practice today. I thought the timing and the rhythm in the passing game was pretty cool to see. I thought that was a step forward. I thought some of the things we did in the run game in those two early periods, I was pleased with what I saw offensively. So when I look at and I go back and I say 16 plays, 95 yards in a preseason game, I saw some signs of things that I really liked. I thought the last two practices I saw some things that showed some progress from an offensive standpoint. So we're not where we need to be yet in any phase, to be honest with you. But I do like some of the progress that I've seen over the last, week or so.
What did Lucas Patrick leave with?
Cramps. But two guys, him and John Abram, both left with cramps today. So it's not California weather anymore, even though we were indoors.
With Udo and Petting, it seemed like they split first team reps pretty evenly. I know you touched on it yesterday, but is that kind of where this competition is right now? Is it that even to you, or is it?
Well, look, I think it's one of those deals where we want to get Ole some reps in there with the ones, see what that looks like. You know what I mean? I would still give the advantage to Trevor right now. But much like I've said in some of the other position battles that we're not quite settled on yet, I'm still waiting on the one guy that's going to jump out at me and say, man, this is my freaking job, you know? And I think when it happens, I think we're all going to know when it happens. We're all going to see it. And so I'm still kind of waiting for that moment right now.
Cedric Wilson kind of had that, or just that giant, give away who won the third receiver job, but like, has he had that kind of?
Look, I like the veteran presence that he has. All right. I don't know if you paid attention to the crack toss block that he had in the game the other day. That was awesome. Probably my favorite play of the game. Foster coming down, you know, on the end and him getting to the linebacker. I mean, I thought that was like real football. So that was cool to see. You know, I think some of the contested catch stuff is something that I'm counting on him being able to do for us. So I'd like to see him, you know, improve in that area. But there's a lot of different things that he can do. And I think that, you know, can benefit our football team.
And this, sometimes when you've talked about Clint, you kind of reference his dad. Like, is that a factor when you're thinking about hiring him, and just like knowing like kind of what he came from, and do you remember even like coaching against some of those Gary Kubiak?
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I think it was 2009, we went there and practiced against them in training camp. And it was hot, tough, competitive, you know. I think there was a few fights in that deal, if I can remember correctly. But I thought that was part of developing, you know, the type of team that we were going to be that year. So, yeah, I think some of that, you know, comes into play. I mean, obviously, you know, you're hiring a guy to do the job, all right? And I hired Clint. I didn't hire Gary. I hired Clint to do the job. But certainly I think his pedigree would lead me to believe that you know, he has a chance to be successful at doing that. So that was part of the equation, but I would say the majority of the equation was based on how I felt about Clint and what I think he can do. But it didn't hurt that, you know, I knew Gary and had an opportunity to go against some of his offenses. And I mean, if you go back and look at his career, man, it's pretty impressive in terms of the offensive rankings of the offenses that he was involved with. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to have the same type of success.
Dennis, we've been able to notice just so many like common sense solutions and approaches to the game from this offensive scheme. I mean, is there an element of it so simple it's brilliant that draws you to it? Or?
Well, look, I've kind of always felt this way. You know, it's really not about what you play; it's about how you play. You know, and yeah, I think sometimes we as coaches can try to overcomplicate this game. There's a few things, both offensively and defensively, that obviously I won't get into, but there's a few things that just, you know, have to happen for you to be able to have success. And if you do these few small things and you can be disciplined enough to do these things every play, then you're going to have a chance to have success. So there is some aspects to let's don't overcomplicate this thing. You know, let's have a set of rules of things that, you know, of how we operate. And usually if you just operate within the rules of that scheme, offensively, defensively, in the kicking game, you know, you can function at a pretty good level. Now, there may be some times where you don't like certain matchups and things like that, and you have to, you know, work around those a little bit, but it's probably not as complicated as people might want to make it feel.
I might be getting out of my depth here, but in that same vein, Jake mentioned that you guys are using more pure progressions on offense. Is that something that helps with kind of making it a little more simple with how much disguise there maybe is with defense and stuff like that?
Well, look, I think some of what we do allows the quarterback a little bit more, freedom to just play the game, and not have so much of the responsibility of having to orchestrate every minute, tiny detail in what we're doing offensively, and it frees him up just to play the game a little bit. So, hopefully that'll provide some benefit to us, throughout this season.
What do you think leads to some of the overcomplicating?
I think part of it is us as coaches, okay? We worry too much about what the other team's gonna do and how do we get the best play versus this particular look, or how do we get the best play versus this particular offensive scheme. And look, there's part of that goes into this, and that's part of, the game planning process. But the reality is, if I know what I'm doing and I can execute what I'm doing at a higher level than you're able to execute what you're doing, I think I have a good chance for success. Challenges come in when guys don't know exactly what to do, right? And so that happens sometimes when you're trying to have the best answer on every single play. And so sometimes you get overly complicated, and you get it to a point where your players can't execute what you're trying to ask them to execute. So I kind of come from the thought process of, keep it simple and give them some rules to live by. And if they start doing things that affect my rules, then we'll have to either get to a different call or we'll have to make an adjustment then.
I want to circle back to your availability comments. I might be off base here, but are you concerned in any way that teams' expectation or projection for recoveries from certain injuries and the players' or the representatives' projections are not always aligned?
Well, look, here's the reality, okay? The reality is nobody knows. There's no concrete, evidence that says this particular injury is going to take this long to heal. And there's a difference between when is it healed to the point that there's no risk of re-injury, and how do we get a guy back in the fold and get him not just physically ready to play, all right, but physically prepared to play. It's one thing to say that, okay, I'm in a spot now where I can run full speed, all right, but if I haven't been running full speed for any significant length of time, well, I'm not going to be prepared to go out and play in a 60-play game. It's not going to happen. So I think everybody wants to look at and say, okay, this guy's got a sprained ankle and he's going to be out for 2 weeks. Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Some people, their bodies heal faster. Some people's bodies don't heal as fast. Some people can push through some discomfort. Some people struggle more with that. It's just part of, so it's hard to say that you can pinpoint exactly how long something's going to take. Now, I think we generally have a pretty good idea. Are we right every single time? No. But I would say more often than not, we got a pretty good idea, and I think our medical people do an outstanding job. But look, injuries happen in football. It's part of the business, okay? Nobody likes it, but it's part of the deal.
Are there any concerns about preventive body maintenance when a player has a high frequency of
Sure.
certain types of.
Yeah, we do all kinds of stuff for that.
I mean, do you get concerned with maybe a lack of on the player's part when there's a high frequency of certain types of injuries?
We're getting into hypotheticals here, right? You know? Yeah, we're getting into hypotheticals, all right? Now, you may have certain individuals in your mind, but look, I think the reality of life is that, you know, some people, you know, can grind through some things, and some people it's a little bit more of a challenge for, all right? Our job is to, you know, try to get our guys as healthy as we can, put them in the best position to have success, all right? Coach the hell out of them, and go play football. And that's what we're going to do. All right? Thanks, guys.
Students prefer calling from the box as opposed to on the field. What do you get?
Yeah, well, the plan all along was to do both in the preseason, so probably going to be down for this game. So I've done them both. Really good sight lines up there. Have good coaches on the sideline. So we're going to try both in the preseason. So we'll try it the other way this game.
Do you gain anything by being down on the sideline?
Definitely, yeah. The eye contact with the players. You know, getting to communicate directly. There's positives to both. You know, so no preference. So I'd like to see how it works out this week.
Clint, just dealing with some of the injuries, especially like some of your skilled guys, do you feel like you have a good sense of what this offense can be?
I think we have a lot of work to find out because there's been so much attrition, especially at skill positions, guys being in and out. You know, the continuity that we're seeking isn't there yet, and that's just part of football. You know, everybody has that problem. So it'll be really good to get AK back in practice and get Shaheed back and Tolly back. But until then, you know, it gives guys great opportunities to step up.
But how do you think that has helped you get a better measure of the depth this team has?
Yeah, get a good depth for the whole roster, get a good feel for the whole roster. And, you know, for our tackles, you know, guys like Landon and Ole are getting good opportunities with Tolly being out. The receivers, you know, it's good to have Bub Means in the game, see what he can do. So, yeah, it's just we get one more opportunity before the regular season starts to see where guys are at.
Speaking of Bob, what have you seen from his progression throughout him?
Yeah, I think from the moment he came here, you can definitely see his explosiveness, you know, fly off the tape. Really like his intelligence, but it's one game of work, and we're pleased with where he's at, and just got to keep growing him.
What did you learn in your first opportunity to call plays?
Yeah, trust your coaches, you know, going back to 2021, just trusting the guys around you and trusting your preparation, and a lot of great communication on the sideline, and just using all your resources.
Do you take that into this experience and help you with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And just communicating that ahead of time with our coaches. Like, hey, I want to hear you guys on the headset. I want to hear what you're thinking. I want to over-communicate. I don't want crickets on the headset. So too much information is not a bad thing.
One of the things that some people have talked about with you in this offense in particular is the kind of everybody sounded like one message, whether it's you speaking or Janoko or John Benton. Is that something that you guys had to work on before you even started working with the players, or is that just kind of come naturally?
I think that's just kind of the expectation of since we came together as a staff. You know, the expectation is to be on the same page as our players, and it's not always going to be perfectly that way, but that is something that we communicate to our players and something we stress as coaches, and because of that we got to spend a lot of time together and getting right in our film sessions before we go communicate to the players. I think it's important, you know, because the players are giving us everything they have, and we have to give them a unified front.
Alvin Kamara used a word that I thought was like kind of a brilliant description of what works with this offensive scheme. He said intentional. Is that easier said than done? I mean, it seems like an obvious thing, but I mean, is that something that as you progressed in this offense over time that you realized you guys are very intentional about what you do, it works better?
Yeah, I think that's what we strive for, and you know, in this league, you know, you're going to be faced with some really good defensive coordinators and some really good players you're going against, and You know, think about a guy like Demario Davis, and the guy watches a lot of tape, and he can smell a rat pretty quick if you're not showing him one thing and giving him the other. So I think we just give a lot of credit to the defense, and so we have to do our part to make it all look the same.
Is there anything from when you first started coaching that has been like, you know, something that you have learned, you know, works really well and has become like a new principle of yours that you didn't necessarily start out with?
I don't know if I could pinpoint one thing. No, I just think just in an accumulation of reps over what's been successful, what's not, and what are good ways to communicate, what's not. And I think we really lean on the players to show us that. You know, we see their reactions to us and how they respond, and we're trying to play off of them too. So to answer your question, the easiest way, no. It's just trial and error and failing forward.
And then when you have, you know, guys with unique skill sets, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara come to mind, but have you always done a good job, or have you learned to be like, how can I, you know, do what's best to take advantage of the skill sets of these kind of guys instead of just trying to make them fit in the system?
Oh, yeah. If you're hard-headed, then it's not going to go very far. It's all about the players and getting them in position, and that's a great challenge that we have as coaches. And, you know, they have their helmets on Sunday, we don't, so we got to get them in great positions, and that's something that we're always talking about upstairs. And just because it worked in 2008 one way doesn't mean it's going to work in 2024 for the Saints. So we have to adapt to our guys.
Some of the quarterbacks have mentioned that you guys use more pure progressions. What's the benefit of that for a quarterback, and how does it make it easier?
Well, I think we definitely give them a little bit of both. You know, I think overall it's when you use a pure progression play, you can kind of narrow someone's focus, narrow their vision, narrow their key, so they're not trying to see everything pre-snap, they're trying to see one thing. But the great thing about Derek Carr is that he can handle anything. You just I think it's our job as coaches to try to narrow it down for him so he can play fast.
Lane, do you think there's an art or a science to play calling? I mean, is there a skill? Can you be a great offensive coordinator and not a great play caller?
I think that's definitely true. That's the guys that I've been around that have been elite at it. And you definitely recognize that and what they see in a game and how they make adjustments and how they communicate to the players. And I'm by no means anywhere in that field right now. I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot to prove, but I'm doing it with the coaches around me and our players.
How much of it falls on what you do Monday to Sunday?
We like to tell the players that the game's already been called, by that time. You kind of have what you want to do, narrow down situationally, so the players can know what to expect, what's coming up, so there's not any surprises on game day.
Is there any added stress not having a settled offensive line at this point as you kind of get closer and closer to the season?
I think it's just with all positions, you never have that comfort. I've never been on a team where you know exactly what you're going to get, and the minute that you do, it all changes with one injury. So you better keep coaching everybody on the roster, and I think that's one thing our coaches do a great job of doing.
You said you have a lot to prove. Does how Minnesota went kind of factor into that for you at all, or is it?
Yeah, well, I think it's just a new year, and we got to go find a way to win. It's not me. It's about myself. It's about our assistant coaches and our players all working together. It's really got nothing to do with me.
The fact that John and Rick and worked for your dad, does that help with your familiarity? I imagine just like you knew some of these guys just from spending time around your dad.
Absolutely, yeah. Being in the fire with some guys on a headset before, being with Rick and Andrew Janocko and Coach Barone, knowing John Benton, you don't want the first time you make an adjustment on the sideline to be the very first time. So we've communicated before, and that's really important. And it's important that we keep gelling with all members of our staff.
Looking forward to coaching your first game in the Dome as a Saints coach, and I know you've
Absolutely.
been there before.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited. Really excited for the practice we got coming up to get familiar with it. A really impressive arena, and it'll be fun to be on the other side of it.
Dennis was talking today about that last set of team stuff where you're kind of carting the Tennessee looks is almost kind of being like a walkthrough for the coaching staff too.
Yeah, I think we we got to give the players a little different front. We get to see the Saints every day, and it's good to go see a different opponent, different front structure. But those walkthroughs, they take place pre-practice, and then hopefully by practice, we're going full speed.
How do you think the Niners play caller did the other day?
Oh man, that's a good one. That was a good one. Hey, they won.
What were those conversations like with play after the game?
Just, that's my brother. So I talked about probably everything else other than football, and have a really special relationship with him, and really grateful for my time working with him, and really proud of him.
Dennis also mentioned 95-yard touchdown drive. What were some of the bright spots that you saw from it? After the scoring, was the bright spot of the other parts of it?
Yeah, I just think the excitement the players showed when the ball went in on 4th and 1. That's fun to see the guys get rewarded for all their hard work throughout the April to now. That's really cool to see. So happy for the guys, and definitely that's our expectation going forward.
Is that important just to have that kind of at least that one long drive where you kind of build confidence, even though it's like the preseason, it doesn't have to be perfect, you're still kind of building on it?
Absolutely, yeah. That was extremely important for our guys to have that success, and we got a long season ahead of us, and those are the kind of drives that can really get a team going. When you show someone that you can run the football down the field the way our guys did, that was exciting. But we also know that there's a lot of work to be done, and it's the expectation is more and more and more. So we're just going to keep harping on the guys to try to do better.
How close was that drive to the way that your offense is supposed to look in terms of the control of the ball, the diversity of plays,
Well, I don't think it's ever the same. You might even plan it to be one way, and you come into the game, and now you got to throw it 50 times to win it, or you got to go win a game, 6-3. It doesn't matter how you do it. So we got to be able to prepare to win a lot of different ways.
How close do you think this team is to being what it needs to be from a schematic and execution standpoint, given all the injuries that you've had?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of urgency to get our tails ready for week 1, and regardless of how close we are, it doesn't matter. We better figure it out because it's starting here in a couple weeks.
Just since this is a new scheme, we were all kind of familiar with the way the last coaches did it, in the lead up to the game, dot meeting and all that stuff. How do you plan on, what's kind of anything you can tell us about your routine, you meet Saturday with quarterbacks, or?
Yeah, we're kind of getting into that battle rhythm right now, but Coach Da gives us a walkthrough on Saturday. We try to meet extra with the quarterbacks night before the game. I'm sure the last regime did the same thing, but we're meeting as much time as DA will give us to meet.
When you talked about being able to win different ways in this league, obviously you're going to be multiple and diversified, but is there something to that cliche of having an identity, and do you believe in that? Is that important?
Oh, it's extremely important, and DA really stresses us being a physical, smart team. So that's coming right from the head coach, and that's what we want to be as an offense. And can you be physical without running the ball? Yes, but we definitely, it's part of who we want to be as a team that can run it versus an 8-man front. And DC has to be able to get the skill guys going when they take it away and go make plays down the field. So there's a lot of ways to win, and you guys have all seen it every Sunday, and it always comes down to the wire, so you better be darn good in situational football too, 2-minute. So, we just got to keep taking advantage of our practice opportunities and just improving in all situations.
Now that you've worked with Carr for a few months, just what's one thing that maybe, or a few things that there's nothing super specific that just stands out about him that maybe you didn't realize until you got around him?
Well, what sticks out about him that I didn't know about him is just how important his faith is to him, and how that shines in his personality and the way he treats his teammates. And I think that's really special for a guy that can be that outwardly spoken about his relationship, his spirituality, and it's really impressive to me. And I don't think that probably gets talked about enough. And he has to go prove it on Sunday too. But I think it's really cool between him and Demario Davis, how outwardly spoken those guys are about their faith.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
One more time.
Cedric Wilson's like block on the cracked house, would you?
Oh yeah, it was a real good block. I mean, Sad does a great job blocking and running routes, so he's going to be a huge part of our offense this year. But that was a great block he did on Sunday.
We asked you about this before, but now we've had weeks more in it. What's sort of your favorite thing about the position this offense puts you in?
It's a lot of great things to be excited about, but just being able to get into space, being able to get into the holes of the defense. I feel like that's a huge advantage for us this year, and one of my favorite parts of this offense that's allowed me to take that next step.
Are there examples of how they've looked at you and they've done things that you think suit you as opposed to you fitting into the offense they came with?
I mean, they kind of put me into different positions to be able to succeed, moving me from the slot to the outside, running a lot of different combinations, a lot of different routes, putting me on the first read or the first read on the backside. It's just a lot of different things that this offense can do. So I'm excited to be able to play my role.
I don't know if I'm going to ask this right away, but do you anticipate getting the ball maybe on some like easier routes? It seemed like last year, the year before, like a
lot of down the
routes.
field, yeah, it's a lot of easy routes, especially the first two preseason games. They've been Clinton trying to get me the ball early, so I'm definitely excited. A lot of choice routes, a lot of 5 yard. You can get up the field, do your thing with it, but like I said, it's going to be a lot more easier to be able to be involved in the game instead of waiting or 1 quarter or 2 quarters to be able to touch the ball. So I'm excited about this offense.
Where do you feel like your time was at, kind of with you and Barrick and going into this new system?
We getting better, man. We getting better. Last year, we don't want to deal with what we did last year, so it's a lot more better to where we was last year at this time. So it's a lot of different things we got to improve on. A lot of timing routes that a lot of out routes we got to improve on, but we're working on that as days goes on.
Hey, Chris, with all the injuries the offense is dealing with, do you feel like you have a good sense of where y'all are right now, or?
We got a lot of key players injured. Jawan, AK, she been out. A lot of our, people that's going to be involved in the regular season, we got to get more reps with them. So they've been in and out of the lineup. A lot of players in and out, like I said. So we're just getting a feel for what we got in there right now, and when the season comes, we're going to be a lot better.
Obviously, Juwan hasn't done any team stuff yet, but when you do get him back in the lineup, what do you think he adds to this offense? Can he help even you out?
Yeah, Jawan's a really good player. I feel like he's underrated at times, but he just brings a spark. Brings a receiving threat. He could block too, so you can't really guard him with a linebacker or any of that. So, like I said, he's a spark to this offense. He's going to be a huge player in this offense going forward, and I can't wait to see how this offense uses him.
Chris, we've talked a lot about how run blocking is important to be on the field as a receiver in this offense. How about how they've been teaching you to make your route stems look the same on a run play and a pass play? Like they say they want the plays to look identical for 3 or 4 seconds. I mean, is that something that's sort of new to you, or that's always?
Yeah, I feel like that's a key to this offense, just making everything look the same. I mean, it's the running game has to be really good for this offense to be at the best. So just making everything look the same, like you said, and especially in the passing plays, so the linebackers come down, especially in play action, so you get the yards out the catch. But like you said, just trying to make everything look the same. So that's how we get our offense going.
How has that been? Is that something that takes a while to learn and get good at?
Not really. It's just kind of learning the offense. We learned in the spring. Had a more of a hold for it in earlier in the camp. So just repetition, man. Just getting more reps and building that over time. I feel like we got a lot better at that.
And have you seen, speaking of easy catches or catches in space, have you seen on those plays where you run the first 3 steps of a route,
Mm-hmm.
just like a run play, more open?
Yeah, even with us, if it's not the ones, you see it with the 2s and the 3s connecting. But like I said, it's just going to come with time. More and more time, it's going to be more and more space. everything's gonna be more open. So.
I mean, you talked about wanting the blocking, now you're doing it in the games. How's that fun for you?
Oh yeah, it feel good, man.
One-on-one,
You know, I'm not used to blocking. I'm used to catching the ball, running the ball, scoring touchdowns. But I mean, that ain't really been working for us as far as the winning column this or the past 2 years. So just trying to add more to what I can do, and just trying to stay on the field every play, being play action, being in the run plays, not having to come out in the run plays. That's just something that I added to my game, and I wanted to add it to my game after last year. So just being in the weight room, being strong, trying to hold my blocks. That's just something that I want to do this year.
Feel like you've been able to move some guys?
Trying shit. I mean, I be trying to block linebackers, but people my size, like the corners and safeties, yeah, I'm trying to move them. But with the linebacker, I'm just trying to hold on to the block.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all now.
When we talked to you, just how do you feel like you've progressed over the last couple weeks?
I feel like it's a upward trend. I'm just trying to keep getting better every day, 20% better every day. So that's really what it's been.
Just obviously nobody wants to see like Mario and Keith hurt, but like you had an opportunity to be in the starting lineup. And, like, how are you viewing this opportunity to get more playing time, get playing time for the ones and all that?
Feels good. It gives me a chance to get comfortable in this league. Like last year, it was really just practice and some preseason games. So being able to go out there with the guys and the ones and get more experience with any group, really, it's a blessing. So it's just trying to take advantage of the opportunities I get.
What was the biggest adjustment you needed to make from last year to this year?
Like I've been saying, my mental, just letting loose. Like I said, I just trust in God, just give all my worries to God. I feel like physically, I don't feel like there are many big physical changes I made from last year this year. Like I put on a few pounds, got stronger, got faster. I still worked this offseason, but I think the main focus for me this offseason was letting go mentally, just being able to just go out there and play football instead of being stuck in my own head.
So like just giving your athleticism a chance to play.
Yeah, like if you see last year it was like I put so much pressure on myself. I'm like, dang, I got to make this play. I got to do this. I got to make the team. I got to do that. I got to do this. So then all that pressure it crushed me. So then this year I was like, all right, all that worry, let me just give it to God. Let me give it to God. And then that's what I'm doing. I feel lighter. Like I feel lighter on my feet. The game's moving slower. I feel like I know my playbook better as well. So I'm just out there literally just playing ball instead of thinking. So.
We've seen that you continue to make a lot of high impact plays. Do you feel like at the same time you cut down when you review and tape mistakes or things you should have done better on a daily basis? Is that improved?
Yeah, that's improved as well. I feel like there's always room to improve. So I feel like the mental errors and mistakes, I feel like definitely try to keep those low. They're definitely low. Just trying to keep them low and just do my job. If I do my job, the play's gonna come to me. That's what Hodges told me. Like during camp, all the plays I make in camp is from doing my job. So games, I try to make it no different. Just go out there and play ball. Just do my job.
The third preseason game is like obviously big for guys trying to make it for the roster. But I'm wondering, after going through it, maybe the first time last year, is there anything you do differently or take it differently now that you have the first one under your belt?
I feel like I'm just relaxing more. Like if you saw last year, like I just got worse. Like people are supposed to get better throughout camp. You look at me last year, I just got worse. Like OTAs, I was flying around doing my thing. Training camp at the beginning, oh yeah, he's cool, and then it was just downhill. I just kept getting worse because like I just kept putting more pressure on myself. So it was just like, and it showed. Like even my PFF score, whatever that is, someone told me it just kept getting lower and lower and lower. And you watch the film, it's like, man, this guy has no clue what he's doing. So right now I'm just trying to be relaxed out there and just play ball. That's my main focus, not to put too much pressure on it being the last preseason game or anything like that. Just it's an opportunity to play ball. So I'm going to go out there and do that.
Did you feel that at the time, or is that something like now that you look back, like, oh wow?
I definitely felt it at the time. I didn't want to believe it, but I definitely felt it at the time. But then looking back on it, that's definitely what it was. I was out there stressing for no reason. Like I'm putting too much pressure on me trying to go play and I'm not playing. So I just gotta. That's what I noticed, and I just been the main focus this offseason and throughout right now.
You mentioned keeping mistakes down, but is there a point where it's like you have to play without being like mistakes happen?
Yeah.
But if you're worried about making mistakes, you play slow, and then you're not. You're thinking too much about the mistakes you don't want to make.
That's another thing that last year, like I would make a mistake and I'd let that linger for the rest of practice or the rest of the game. So I feel like this year I make a mistake, like, okay, that's cool. Like, we're going to fix it later. I'm just on the next play. Like, even in the game, like, at first it was like a missed tackle on the sideline. He stepped out. No, I could have let that. Last year I feel like I would have let that draw out the entire game, and you would have saw my play just go down. But this year I was just like, all right, that's cool. Next time I'm going to get him next time. And I just kept going. So that's a big change from last year to this year, is just letting go of bad plays, let go of good plays too, just next play mentality.
How did you actually
So I feel like you hear a lot of people say they want to be like that, but how did you actually get to that point, you know? Like, did you have to, I don't know, do some studies or whatever?
Yeah, I had a mental performance coach, Jonna Genova, I think I said her name right. So we worked throughout this offseason. We had a lot of meetings just working on, like, my limiting beliefs, like trying to mitigate those, and then focusing on my empowering beliefs and trying to keep those in the forefront, and getting a plan together for this training camp and this throughout the off season to make sure my mental's right. So she's helped me tremendously. So just keeping my mind right and being able to go. I call it playing out my mind, because I'm not thinking. So just going out there, be able to play out my mind and just go play ball.
And it's like you have to be really intentional with that, I imagine, and just not let the bad habits kind of creep back in.
Yeah, like we still talk every now and then, but I feel like that has helped me tremendously. Just being able to mental, like, because it's a mental game, really. I feel like in the NFL, everyone's physically gifted. Everyone can do it physically, but the mental is where you can separate. So that's why it was a big emphasis this offseason. So.
At the same time, like, you've probably been hearing next play all your life. Is that just something you kind of have to go through to realize, like, actually, so it's not just a cliche more?
Yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game, really, next play. Because that one play can make or break a game, but, like, only if you let it, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you have a bad play and you let it linger throughout the rest of the game, then you're done for. But, like, if you have a good play and just keep focused on that, then you're still done for. So you just got to be able to just play the game, you know what I'm saying? Not be stuck on the past, or just play the game.
Do you look at your PFF scores at all this year?
Nah, don't tell me. I don't want to.
Can you give an example of an empowering belief that you're trying to reinforce versus the other kind of belief that you're trying to mitigate?
Yeah, so one of my empowering beliefs is God gave me this passion for football for a reason. So that's been my biggest focus this offseason, is my relationship with God. I'm just trying to stay close with Him. I feel like in the past I put football before God, and I feel like that's not how I should live life. It's not how we should live life. So just putting Christ before ball, and just knowing that He gave me this passion for a reason. So to trust that He didn't give me this passion just to go work a 9 to 5, go work some regular job. So I'm meant to play the sport. So just knowing that and having that confidence to just go out there and play. And one of my limiting beliefs, is a good amount, but it's like 3. We picked 3, but they're pretty intense. I want to keep those to myself, but like they're like just personal things, like throughout life that I noticed that we went through. Noticed that, like, have crept up. Like, even if I didn't notice like stacked up and took a toll on me. So just knowing to limit those, and just being able to focus on the empowering beliefs.
Do a lot of your peers do that same mental exercise?
I'm not sure.
How did you find out about it?
I met Jonna. Jonna taught me it, but I met Jonna in Tampa at House of Athlete Yo Murphy, where I trained. So she was there, and then that's where we connected first, and then reconnected with her this off season. Then that's when we got to go through this RIP season, is what we call it.
Time for one more.
From a player's perspective, did you notice a big difference back home when you're practicing to California?
A little bit, but try not to focus on that, you know what I'm saying? I try to stay hydrated. Like, you're gonna feel a difference. It's humid here. Like, it's just what it is. But being back home, I feel like just having the fans out yesterday and, you know, just being back in New Orleans, being back at home, it's great. Like, I feel like we have a new, like, juice of energy just being back home. Like, everyone was so excited to come back, and now that we're finally back, you like, kind of sense it with the guys. It's like new level of energy being back home.
Thank you.